By the time you're done with this video, you're going to be in a position to explain what a strategy is and give a practical example. Use real business examples to differentiate between a goal and a strategy. Come up with practical strategies for achieving business goals, as well as explain the factors that influence corporate strategy. And if you like this sort of content, okay, as you're going on, make sure you subscribe and you hit the like button. It's free and it will actually help us, okay, grow the channel, plus other things. As part of understanding how strategic supply chain management can support corporate business strategy, you first of all need to understand the relationship between the supply chain, business, and corporate levels of strategy. And so let's start with what exactly is a strategy. A strategy is a clear plan agreed by the main actors within an organization which sets out aims that the organization will take to achieve its operational intentions. And too many words, right? What exactly does that mean? In fact, let's look at it from a practical point of view. In this case, let's say you have a mid-sized logistics company in, say, Kenya that provides warehousing, transportation, and distribution for agricultural products like maize, beans, and fresh produce. Now, in that case, obviously you're going to have, like in the case of your company, you'll have a vision, right? So your vision could be something like to be the leading provider of reliable and affordable agricultural logistics solutions in East Africa. And so that's your vision, right? But then you also have a mission. So in this case, your mission could be to support farmers, traders, and retailers by delivering safe, timely, and cost-effective logistics services that reduce food losses and improve market access. Now that's vision and that's mission. But what about your strategic intent? Like, how exactly do you aim to get to those things? Okay, like to be the leading provider in East Africa. How do you plan to go about that? In short, we're talking about strategy, right? A strategy, that is a clear plan that shows how your company will grow to reach its goals of moving more produce, okay, cutting losses, and earning more revenue. Now this, okay, the strategy, this could be something like, so your main goal was your strategic intent, expand operations to handle 30% more agricultural produce within the next 3 years while reducing transit time and spoilage by 20%. You want to do that within 3 years. Okay, 30% in expansion, 20% in reducing wastage. But then, see, that's generally the plan, right? Now, specifically, how are you going to get there? Okay, so talk about your strategic objectives. So we have market growth, such as expand to Uganda and Tanzania by setting up 2 cross-border hubs. We have operational excellence, such as introducing, okay, cold storage truck to reduce post-harvest losses for perishable. Technology integration, such as implementing a digital tracking system for farmers and traders, okay, to follow their goods in real time. We have partnerships, such as collaborating with farmers and retail chains to guarantee consistent cargo volumes. But even financial sustainability, increase revenue by 25% through new services like farm to market delivery package. So you see, you had a mission, you had a vision. You had a vision, you had a mission, you've had your strategy, okay, like your strategic intent, and then you have objectives. So in short, we can sum up your strategy this way, okay? So the strategy, in this case, what is strategy like in your business? You can sum it up by saying it's a clear plan that shows how your logistic company will grow by expanding into new markets, investing in cold trucks using technology, and partnering with farmers and retailers to reach its goals of moving more produce, cutting losses, and earning more revenue. Okay, look, at this point, I just have to point out that if you are really interested in business, okay, like logistics business, I've added in the details, okay, you can access a PDF that will give you 19 business ideas, okay, logistic related business ideas that you can start. In addition to that, you'll also get other resources like identifying your business idea, doing your customer personas, looking at the market to see if it's, in short, you'll get details, okay, of information that are designed to help you go from just an idea to a business. So you can access that, or you can just scan the code and, the information will be availed to your phone. So either way, you do that. Now, strategy isn't going to be very specific. In fact, for the most part, it's just going to be broad because you're just talking about your intent, like where you intend to go, where the company, in this case it's a company, where your company intends to be in this given timeline. And as you do that, as you come up with that plan, other things are going to emerge, okay? The environment you're operating is going to change, the law, all that stuff, economic reality. And so at some point you might be forced to change your direction. But even having said that, okay, there's going to be a need for tactics, for you to figure out the tactics that are going to help you achieve that strategy, okay? So in this case, there is strategy and then there is tactics. Okay, tactics refer to the basic operational activities and actions that make the strategy a reality. And if you look at this from a supply chain perspective, because it's all about that, right? If you look at this from a supply chain perspective, a strategy to deliver goods and service could outline the overall approach to be taken, while the tactics may relate to the negotiation, tendering, or purchasing activities. And again, since we do these theoretically and then you also look at it practically, from a practical angle, all right, DHL's strategy for delivering goods and service is to provide fast, reliable, and integrated global transport solutions by combining air, sea, and road freight, supported by digital tracking systems and a vast international network of hubs and warehouses. So basically, if you're talking about like DHL, right? Their strategy in this case is rather focuses on global reach, speed, sustainability, and technology-driven visibility. But that's a strategy, right? Very broad. Well, sort of makes sense. But what about the day-to-day activities? What exactly do they do? I mean, yeah, speed, you're talking about tech and all that. So on Monday, what is it that people are doing there? On Wednesday, what exactly are people doing in that company? So in this case, that will mean things like negotiating long-term contracts with major airlines and shipping lines to secure priority cargo space at low rate, participating in tendering process from multinational companies such as Apple, Zara, to win contracts for moving raw materials or finished goods globally. We also have employing local brokers and digital custom clearance systems to reduce border delays. So the point is that for you to understand, is that yes, there is strategy, right? A clear plan showing where you want to go. But then there are tactics which will turn that strategy into a reality. So it isn't so much just coming up with a strategy like, I want this to be the biggest supply chain and procurement channel, so you need to subscribe. Yeah, you do need to subscribe. Yes, there is that, but what about the tactics? What about the things that are going to turn that into a reality? You have to figure that one out. According to Thomas Halt, all strategies engage with 4 core principles. In this case, speed, that is the time of delivery, quality of goods or services, cost of the goods and then the cost of processing, flexibility, that is the capacity to change and adapt to different circumstances. And again, from a real point of view, from an actual business perspective, how do those things actually play about? And in this case, to understand that, let's look at Maersk, okay? One of those biggest shipping companies that you can think of. It's on top 10 big shipping companies in the world. So in this case, in terms of speed, right? This refers to how fast goods will move from origin to destination. And in terms of this company, Maersk uses both sea and air freight solutions, meaning if sea freight is delayed, the client's cargo can be shifted to air freight for urgent shipments. And the result is customers get faster delivery without completely relying on slow ocean routes. In terms of quality, so in this case, we're talking about making sure that goods arrive intact and the service is as per the customer's requirements. So Maersk has invested in reefer, that is refrigerated containers, for food and pharmaceutical. Sensors track temperature throughout the journey. Now, in terms of cost, which means the point here is to keep the costs in a way that makes sense, in a way that doesn't affect profitability. That can be achieved by leveraging economies of scale. So Maersk does this by running mega container ships that move thousands of containers at once, lowering per unit cost. Now, regarding flexibility, okay, you're talking about adjusting to circumstances, all right? Something comes up, we don't get stuck there, we need to adjust and do something this other way. Because That's part of the strategy, right? So in this case, it's just flexibility. For example, as a result of the Red Sea shipping crisis that happened in 2024, okay, to 2025, the idea was, or rather what happened was, there are those guys who are attacking ships at the Red Sea, right? I think that's something to do. Most of those things just have something to do with political alignment, and then, So when that happened, most companies were like, we are no longer going to use that route, or we are not shipping or something. But with Musk, well, they had to think, okay? So they rerouted their cargo or their ships all the way through, Africa, all the way to So they went around rather than going through the Suez Canal. I'm doing this like if you can see anyway, the point is they rerouted rather than going through the Suez Canal because the Red Sea ships are being attacked and all that stuff. Let's talk about goal and strategy. Now, a goal is not the same as strategy. A goal is an intended aim, while the strategy is the agenda used to reach that aim. The tactics or functional activities needed to achieve the strategy are then built in a manner that contributes to the intended outcomes. Let's look at that from a practical angle because it's kind of just easy if we see what these things are in practice. And let's take a company like FedEx, okay? Let's take FedEx. The global carrier and logistic company. And in this case, we are looking at FedEx, or rather we are looking at that company. It's an hypothetical scenario here, okay? So in terms of goal, tactics, and resulting outcome. So the goal, that is the intended aim, FedEx wants to increase its shares of the e-commerce delivery market in Europe by 20% within 3 years. Let's assume that is what they want to do. I'm not saying that is what they're doing, okay? So don't go to their website like fedex.com. They didn't say that. Look, so let's say they want to do that, okay? So in this case, what is their strategy? So to achieve this goal, okay, FedEx will position itself as the fastest and most reliable e-commerce delivery partner by expanding last-mile delivery networks in major cities, leveraging technology for real-time parcel tracking, building strategic partnerships with large online retailers such as Zalando or Amazon. In that case, we have a goal, the overall goal. And we also have a strategy, those things, right? But then the question is, what about the day-to-day work? What exactly are you going to be doing to achieve that strategy, or which will take us to that particular goal? So in this case, talking about tactics, that is the functional activities to implement the strategy. And so those will mean things like securing contacts with top e-commerce platforms to become their preferred logistics partners, okay? Investing, for instance, buying electronic delivery vans for urban deliveries to meet EU regulations, optimizing warehouse automation and use of AI for route planning to reduce delays, okay? Marketing, that's another thing. And all that, okay, by doing all those things, then they're going to get outcomes. And in this case, the outcomes could be things like faster delivery times, which means customer satisfaction. Since they are expanding in Europe, so green operations signifies compliance with EU rules, and that is a positive for the brand. And for a business angle, okay, from a business angle, e-commerce partnership will increase their market share to the desired 20%. Right. But look, the idea here is just for you to understand what a strategy is and look at it from a practical angle and things of that. Generally, when it comes to strategies, most strategies will just be based on the following. They'll be based on growth, they'll be based on diversification or stability. So with growth, the aim is to increase the level of market share, revenue, or profitability through an expansion of the company's operation, portfolio, or geographical reach. A company like Amazon, let's say Amazon, right? So what's their growth strategy in this case? So let's say the company wants to expand in like Africa. They're already in Africa, but let's say that's their goal, to expand there. So expanding its logistics networks in Africa to reach more customers. Let's assume that's a thing. And they could do this by building new warehouses and hiring more delivery drivers in Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. And so growth as a strategy, okay? We're talking about growth as a strategy. That could simply mean doing more of what you already do, but in a bigger way. Now, in terms of diversification, because that's another one, okay? And first of all, you need to understand that companies will diversify because of a number of things, okay? There are many reasons why a company will diversify. We're talking about things like economies of scale for both production and market, knowledge transfer to an adjacent market or business, blocking competitors from influencing markets, okay? Vertical integration. But then if that is your strategy, if your strategy is just let's diversify, you have to remember that there are going to be costs associated with doing that. Because for the most part, it's not just expansion. Diversification could mean we are making this product, like these batteries, and now we want to go into another market where you actually make, like cameras or something. So that's the thing. And there's a cost associated with that. Now, the next one is stability. And this is actually used by companies that are seeking a more consistent position in the market. Now, at some point, we talked about Maersk, the shipping company. So let's look at that as an example. Now, Maersk, for example, could choose to steadily protect their business by focusing on maintaining current shipping routes during times of global disruption, such as fuel price or even conflict. Now, how could they do this as a strategy? The company can delay new expansion and concentrate on serving existing customers reliably. So the idea here is just keeping what you have, okay? Keeping it strong as opposed to chasing a new idea or chasing a new opportunity. So you get into a market, stay in that market, become the biggest thing in the market, as opposed to jumping into a new thing that has come up. Let us now look at strategies for achieving goals. According to Michael Porter, there are 4 main strategies that may be employed depending on the relative competitive advantage that a company has within the market. And the thing with these strategies, okay, all the 4 of them, they have advantages. Basically, they have costs associated with them, okay? So it's not like if this one is good and therefore it depends on the market you are in, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, and it depends on the price you're willing to pay. Anyway, the strategies are number 1, cost leadership. And with cost leadership, we're just talking about finding a way to drive most people think that when you talk about cost, you're saying sell something cheap. Not really. That's a different thing. So with cost leadership, you're just saying find a way to produce the same thing that your competitors are producing, but produce it in a low cost so that even if you sell it at the same price as the rest of the people in that market, you still make a profit. Meaning what? Meaning if you are producing, anything, if you're producing these lens cap, okay, these lens covers. So if the cost of producing one is say 2, whatever 2 is, that's the average cost. But then you find a way of doing it at 0.5 or even 1, and then you still sell it at 5. Then you see you're making more profit as opposed, even if you sell it at the market price, you're making more compared to your competitors. In order to achieve this, economies of scale, process efficiencies, procurement practices, and access to goods and service should be leveraged. So an example of this is Maersk using mega ships that carry over 20,000 containers at once, lowering the cost per unit. Now, number 2, we have differentiation. In this case, you want to make yourself unique. With differentiation, you're just talking about uniqueness. You want to be different. That is a thing that, separates you from your competitor. So an example here. So FedEx, as an example, okay, let's use that, differentiates through speed and reliability, offering overnight and time-definite delivery worldwide. Now let's talk about cost focus, number 3. So this is where the actual price or the actual cost comes in, okay? You are focusing specifically on having a cost advantage on certain part of the market. Meaning what? So this is different from cost leadership in that it's the price charged to consumer of that product that is the subject of the focus. So Aramex, okay? Aramex, which is, again, a logistics company, Aramex focuses on emerging markets such as Africa, Middle East, okay, where giants like DHL and FedEx are more expensive. The company keeps its operations lean, partners with local carriers, and provides affordable logistics services to SMEs. And the fourth one is differentiation focus. Now, with differentiation, you're just saying you target a specific part of the market and then you become unique in that specific part of the market. For example, having a smaller, more defined group of products or specialist services. Now, an example here, we have a company like Kuna Nagel, okay, which specializes in pharmaceutical and healthcare supply chain. So temperature sensitive or even high security cargo. Now, those are examples of strategies that you can use. I mean, those are generic examples of strategies. So there are many, but those are the ones that Porter suggested. Moving on, let's talk about factors that influence corporate strategy. And there are a number of factors. So these factors can be internal, they can be external, right? And there are a number of them. So let's start with external factors, which will include, so external factors anyway, include things like competitors within the market, new industry entrants, development of substitute products, and the relative economic position of goods sold. And then we have internal factors, which in this case will be things like company politics and restructuring, change management and cycles of renewals of management positioning, products life cycles and the opportunity to maximize the potential return on research and development, shareholder and stakeholder influence and preference, as well as opportunity for investment. Look, the whole point here was for you to understand a number of things relating to strategy, from what is strategy, the difference between a goal and a strategy, example of strategies that you can use and all that. Look, as you go through these, you're probably under the impression that with a strategy, you must be doing something. But the truth is, sometimes not doing something, in short, non-decision, can also be a strategy. What are we talking about? You're simply saying that when a company chooses to do something, right? When a company decides that we are only going to be selling to retailers, then it means they've strategically decided that they're also not going to be selling to consumers directly, okay? So non-strategy, that decision, not non-strategy, non-decision, by not doing something, that can also be a strategy. So you always have to understand that, because there is a cost associated with that as well. Right. If you're serious about turning or rather starting a logistic related business or a supply chain related business, is a video that's going to help you, okay, learn how to turn the elements of logistics management into a profitable business. As always, if you have any question, let me know. See you in the next video.